You know,
Hello,
how,
everybody.
how are you? Where are you in relationship to all the horrible stuff that's going on now in your,
In Israel.
Uh,
yeah,
Well, I must say, and we'll get Clara's opinion also. It's I don't know what adjective to use. The experience is that you never know. You live your life day to day, everything normal, and then all of a sudden there'll be a siren, and zoom, and in a moment that's it. You just off. We have a like a safety room in our house, which has real thick walls with rebars all the way across it, and hermetically sealed door and window because it was originally built against gas attacks, which are not happening so much anymore. So that's it. They're just, I take like whatever snack I was eating or my phone or whatever it is I was doing, and it's quick. It's just like zoom. You don't wait. And this past 3, 4 days or so were high holidays, the beginning of it.
right.
So here I was, we were all at the synagogue. Wait, I'm going to get all these admissions. In the synagogue, really into it, really praying and really feeling it and everything. And I'm good, huh? And that's it. The whole place just in a moment, just about face. And everyone, they encouraged us not to run. They said most of the casualties occur when people are running to the shelter. So so we walked, I walked quickly. And we're all kind of helping each other walk down there, and just even getting into the stairwell when there's no windows, that's already considered safe. And we stayed down there and we sang, and then we came back up. And I have some ultra Orthodox religious friends. And I went there for lunch afterwards, and I said, "Oh, what did you do during the alert, the alarm, whatever?" They said, "Nothing. We continued praying." Now, I don't know if that's like nuts or true faith, or I don't know. It's like
Wow.
not where I am. Clara, what about you? Anything to add, or anyone? You're muted, Clara. You're muted.
until she comes back on, I just wanted to ask another quick question. You talked about when you talked about your safe house, safe space. So you
Yeah.
have someone else living in your building?
So I just moved. I've been here a month.
Yeah.
Here's the we over
Oh,
here. This is my Indian personal assistant, I call her. She's a godsend. She's amazing. She's terrific. She's been with me, I think the 22nd of October is her 2-year anniversary of being here in Israel. I'm sure she didn't sign up for this.
oh,
And she's terrific, really.
oh. So she cooks for you?
I taught her. I
Oh,
taught her.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, she takes care, and she's the housewife. The laundry and the washing and the cleaning and the this and that. Yeah, she's terrific.
Oh, that's great.
Someone else with a similar situation said it was the second best thing they did in their life after marrying their spouse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
thanks.
Clara.
I was in a dance class in a kibbutz nearby, and there were messages all over the place that it was going to happen. But like you said, part of me didn't know, wasn't, maybe, maybe not, but it happened. And I, that sound of the siren is frightening. And I did not have the head to think to bring my cell phone with me or anything. I just ran. I ran the wrong way. The teacher said, no, no, not that way. Go this way.
You
The
danced
room
back.
was what?
You danced back.
I didn't dance that. The class that was over with the class. But the room was filled with kids and dogs and a little bunny, and it was kind of like seeing another part of the world that I'm not a part of, because I'm not usually with these. I didn't know the Israelis, so it was interesting. It was interesting, and I don't know, the whole country was in safe rooms. So that was unusual because usually it's in one area of Israel, but the
That was
whole country,
amazing.
whole
That
country.
was quite a feeling. The entire country was in the bunkers. was
Like Jerusalem, in Jerusalem,
All over
Everybody.
Israel.
everywhere, the entire
you
country.
know, I just wish that the United States, everyone could understand the strength of Israel, what they're up against, how they're helping the rest of the world. That it's the most incredible people, and I cannot understand the anti-Semitism and the people that say they're pro-Palestinian. Well, the Israelis are pro-Palestinian as well. They take care of it, the Palestinians. It's the terrorists that are making all this happen. And Israel is fighting for us too against these horrible terrorists. And that's what this, to me, is the worst thing, this misunderstanding. And how dare them say that Israelis are not humanitarian. They're the most humanitarian people in the world. And how this is being set up, it's just outrageous. Outrageous.
Well, I'm
Such
sure
a
glad
small
we're recording
country.
this. I really appreciate your words, Audrey. It's very
Oh
nice.
my goodness. I have 90 immediate family in Israel.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, my blood is from Israel, and I feel the times that I have visited Israel, I really felt like I was home. There was such a feeling to be there. It's just the most remarkable country, and the world is so misguided. It's just terrible.
We have another,
Terrible.
Dory, do you want to say hi?
No, I just I can't believe what you all are going through, and just the strength of the IDF soldiers, and it's unbelievable.
Dory?
She's muted.
I know, and Dory, hello.
Hi. Yes, I'm here.
Hi.
I'm here. It's interesting for me to hear from those of you who are there. You know, I remember the last time I was there in Bombsville, and it was like 50 years ago. So, you know, a long, long time ago. But
Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose.
what?
Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose.
Come on, we don't all understand French.
The more it changes, the more it's the same.
Nothing. I just want to listen to those of you who are there.
Sami? Schlechmathu? Do you have something?
Hello.
Hello. Anything to add?
Yeah, just it was very weird because this time round with the sirens, it was like the first time we heard this shrilling noise on the phone, and I didn't understand what was going on. I thought someone was playing around, and that was freaking me out. But then I realized, wow, this is actually amazing because it was giving us so much more time to actually realize we have to do something and get somewhere. But it was getting used to this new noise as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Who else? And any topic is welcome today, whatever.
Could I ask a quick question before you get into a topic? As far as Norio said that Fia is in Columbia, Missouri, what's he doing there?
Oh, he lived there before he moved to Asheville the first time. He's Claire, his partner, has family in Columbia
Oh,
and also in Asheville.
uh-huh.
Yeah, they had some opportunities in Columbia, and Fia's doing well there.
Uh-huh.
As
Well,
a
I bet
music
I bet
teacher.
he's glad he left Asheville just in time.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Actually, I haven't. He checked in via email,
Uh-huh.
and but yeah, it's we're he's doing well, and we're all doing well regardless, in
Mhm.
spite of what appears to be a horrific thing. And I don't mean to dismiss and make light of people who have died and in the Asheville area and all that.
Mhm.
And I also wanted to comment a little bit. The horrors that we see, whether they be the storms or the, I mean, it may seem weird to compare them, but what's happening in Israel and all that is, it's a reflection of our ignorance of what we are as humans. And really, that's what George Osal was really talking about. It wasn't about a diet, although, of course, if we understand what we are as humans, then we would eat human food, what's designed for humans, as opposed to the poisons we seem to relish and are fed. So that's, but it wasn't about the food itself. It's about recognizing our humanity, and our humanity is not based on labels. It's beyond the labels of Israel, United States, Palestinian, and so those are just play names. Like hey, let's play cops and robbers or something. But they're not what we are truly, and that's what, to me, that's what George Osao, and that's what I think his teachings were really about, was to recognize our true nature and not the legal labels, legal fictions that we play with, and thinking that those legal fictional names are real and are actually what we are, creates a dynamic which we use to justify all kinds of atrocities with each other.
Norio, can you imagine dying for your country or killing for your country?
Um, I attempt to avoid those situations, like back in the early 70s when I was draft age. I didn't register for the draft. I had a brother who did register, when it was his age. But early on, I had determined that I would rather go to prison than go to Vietnam. I knew that if I was in Vietnam, of course, I would pick up a gun and fight if I was forced to be there. And I determined, I mean, to me, I looked at the Vietnamese as our enemies, as humans, and that it was not my place to judge them and kill them. And and at the same time, I recognized I was capable of picking up a gun and killing someone if I was in that situation. And I just did not want to put myself in that situation, and would rather go to jail than be put in that situation. So
That's quite a question, but I just feel with Israel, it's a bit different. They're not initiating it, they're just literally protecting themselves.
well, and in actuality, everyone is blameless. There's no perpetrator, there's no victim. That's part of recognizing our humanity, is that that narrative is also part of is a is part of the game, if we want to call it a game, even though we take the game to horrific ends as humans.
It's no game. It's no game. It's horrible. Somebody comes and wants to kill all the Jews. That's not a game. I'm sorry. Norio, please don't say we're all the same. We're not. We're not.
I'm not laughing because of I recognize the horror, but we are the same. I know that you don't agree. I know that you don't agree, Clara, and it's fine. I'm not saying it to disagree with you. I know. I can't imagine. I mean, and I've lived a wonderful life, and it's like the cancer, what people think is cancer. I thanked the cancer every morning. Yeah, told it I love it. It's not an enemy. Enemies are part of this reality. I won't call it a game. I'll call it a reality, an inherited human reality. And we don't recognize that this reality is being created through us. And this is what Jojo Sao was teaching. And that because of our ignorance, we don't recognize the possibility of creating a different reality. So
there are idealists who wanted to create a different reality, who were all for helping the Palestinians and doing all sorts of wonderful things, and they're not with us anymore. They were killed.
Well, there's actually only birth and death is part of this reality. Time is part of this created reality.
Did you say the perfect death?
Birth
and death.
Birth and death is only exists in this current reality. And we don't know that. We don't know that. And this reality is being created through you, Clara, as much as it is being created through me and through each of us. And we don't recognize that. This is something that Giorgio Sao was talking about. And I didn't understand it as a child when I would hear him talk of this, but when I was 50 years old, I finally got it. I finally got it. I got the cosmic joke. This entire reality is a creation being created through all of us. And when it's now, you, Clara, is not the creator of this, is not creating the reality. I, Norio, is not creating. It is being created through us, though. And so when there's a recognition of how this reality is created, then through us, there can be a totally different reality created. So the name Norio, the name Clara, the name Israel, the name Palestine, all of that is only in this created reality, being created through all of us. So, and unfortunately, I'm not dismissing anything that you're saying, Clara. I agree totally with everything you're saying. And it's being created equally through every single human being on the planet.
But the problem is we have to deal. Let's say we all get it, and I'm not sure. I love to listen to how you speak and your positivity. But how do you deal with all the other people in the world that are violent and don't get it? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
How do you
Well,
deal in that world? Like
The-
what should Israel do, for example? You know, say,
Well-
oh, well, these people are, you know what I'm saying? They're dealing with terrorists.
Yeah, well, first, Israel and terrorists exist in this reality. So the answer of what do you do is to recognize what you truly are. You're identifying as an individual human form, which is fragile or vulnerable, not fragile, vulnerable. And so underlying our existence is this fear, an underlying fear that, and this identifying with it, we don't recognize we inherited it. Audrey, is that your name, Audrey? Is you, in the same way I inherited the name Norio Kushi. I did not create it when I was a baby when born. I didn't create it. You did not create the name Audrey. These were things that already existed, and we inherited this reality. And then we unquestioningly became this reality, and now participating in ongoingly recreating this reality day to day, moment by moment. So when there's a recognition of what our true nature is, then moment by moment we would behave appropriately. So I'm not condemning the actions of Israel or the people of Israel, or in the same way I spoke earlier, if I found myself in Vietnam when I was a teenager with a gun in my hand, I would have used it. You know, it's not right and good and evil, birth and death is an aspect of this reality. There actually is no birth and there is no death. There is the birth and death of our identity, of who we think we are, what we think we are. But that only exists in this reality. And the underlying fear is the source of violence, all human violence. All war is an expression of individual violence organized. But
So
that violence and
Where-
fear exists within every one of us in this game. Okay, in this reality, not game. And we don't recognize that. We don't recognize that. And of course, we don't all express it. And there is a degree of recognition of our humanity anyway, in this reality. And there are people who express it in different degrees. There are people who actually profit from all of this violence. The use, organizing violence. There are many.
Noria, before we
Oh.
go down that road, that game, I want to bring in two more people.
Okay, yeah.
I very much appreciate your words, Noria. I'd
Yes.
like to see if Mike Chen has any comments. You often have good things to say. And also to welcome Aaron Shenhar, another Israeli with us. If we're speaking about our experiences during the alarms and during this period now. So if you wanted to explain your reality, what's happening to you? And then Mike, anything? No, Mike?
Oh, I'd love to,
Yeah.
underline. Yeah, sure. Norio is wonderfully expressing the non-dualism of George Osawa. George Osawa, we all study, in our various degrees, to assist in our personal roads in macro, and with the application to a diet and lifestyle and philosophy. And Norio, for those who aren't yet aware, Norio knew George as a youngster, as a 5-year-old and 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, and called him grandpa. And George had a wonderful, wonderful access to young minds. And he didn't hesitate with Norio and the rest of the family. He instructed them in basic non-dualistic philosophy, Far Eastern philosophy at a very young age. And Norio just told you so beautifully that it took him until age 50 to fully grasp what it was that Grandpa George was communicating to him. And Norio, being faithful to his childhood, is now transferring to all of us everything that he learned from George at age 5, 6, 7, and everything that he gained as insight as an adult, and then as he's progressing into middle age. So the nature of the universe is something that we're all concerned with, no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, no matter what we are engaged in. We're all concerned with the nature of the universe. And in the Far East, this universe is called what? What is everything that we're seeing in the universe? What is it called? Anyone?
Illusion.
What is it?
Illusion.
Illusion, G. Absolutely. It's all called illusion. And Norio right here, he's telling you, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're engaged in, don't forget, it's illusory. That's the nature of this, what we call this phenomenon of the universe. That the nature of that universe is illusory. And that makes a big difference in your mindset, personally, individually. Makes a big difference in your mindset, makes a big difference in your attitude toward yourself and to others around you. How's that?
May I add something to that? Thank you, Mike.
Love you, Norio. Love you.
Yeah, I love you too. And I just want to say, Clara, I love you. And everything that you say is valid. I'm not disagreeing with anything you say. I want to tell you wholeheartedly, it's 100% valid.
Do you sometimes disagree with anybody ever?
I actually never do, because I see the validity in when anyone says it's and what I disagree with is sometimes people are not truthful to their world, to their view, regardless of whether it's an illusion or not. We can be truthful about what we see in this world, and that's what Clara and Clara was expressing that, and I appreciate that.
Do you have opinions, Norio? You think this is right, this is wrong, this is true?
Oh, yeah, well, it depends on the context. I definitely have opinions within certain contexts. Like, for example, I'm driving the truck and it breaks down, and I have to get to this place, by a certain time. Now I can't get there, and so it's bad. I promised I was going to get there, and now I can't. So yeah, within any context, even lies, if we're not in a particular, if we look at the context of what the lie is about, is coming from, there's a validity to the lie. Obviously people lie because they feel vulnerable or they're threatened or something.
When your truck breaks down, Noryu, do you have an emotion?
Oh yeah, I have emotions and things, but that's part of the game. It's with our emotions, we're creating meaning and attachments, and that's part of our game. But I know that it's since 50, I don't know how to say it, but I see the there's a bigger picture, I would say. I don't say I see everything. It's because it's impossible to say that. But I see a bigger picture. I'll say that.
That's a great way to put it. I really enjoy hearing that there's a bigger movie involved.
Yeah. So it's and yeah, so it's I was 11 when Giorgio Sawa passed away. So, but this reality, just what I wanted to share, something that Mike pointed out, is it's an illusion. Yes, I saw that it was not real, but so it's not that we want to discount the illusion or this reality. It's understanding how it's created. That's the key, is understanding how it's created.
Through us.
Through us, yes. And this is what Giorgio Sawa, he told me that 100% of this world, when I was a child, when I was like 6 years old, is I am responsible for 100% of this world. He didn't say universe, but now I recognize he also meant universe. I am responsible for it. And of course I could not understand what he was saying, but I kept returning, especially when negative things were what I thought was negative was happening. I would ask myself, how am I responsible for this? How am I responsible? Throughout my life, I would ask that question. And I finally got, when I was 50, yes, he hit the nail on the head. Mm-hmm. And what he was pointing to is how this reality is created. And so
I want to bring in Bob Carr and see, Bob,
so,
do you have anything you wanted to add?
So it's not to just say it's an illusion or I've been using the word reality. It's to see directly how it's created, and that is empowering in that we can create a completely different reality. So that's the trick, so to speak, is to take off these virtual reality glasses, and we can pre-program a different game, different reality, and that's what Giorgio Sawa was really talking about. So yeah.
Is it a little like the Viktor Frankl thought that you are the one that controls how you react and think about things no matter what is going on around you? Is it a little like that idea?
Well, in actuality, we don't control that. We can't control that because we're operating, reacting according to the programming of this particular reality. So when we see how this reality is created, I think that's what Viktor Frankl was also pointing to, is that we don't react according to the programming. We see beyond it. So, and we don't recognize it's not the individual that is creating the reality. It is we are together creating this reality. So the shift is in the context. There's a greater context is seen.
So we
And so we don't react to the.
Can we control our thoughts, Noria?
Actually, we don't control our thoughts either. That's part of the programming. But however, it's possible to see that programming, because what is seeing, like Clara and Ginat and all of you looking at the screen, seeing the Norio on the screen, you're not the one that's seeing. Ginat is not seeing. Clara is not seeing. It is being seen through you, through the form. That,
Can I ask?
and that is to see what is it that is really seeing.
Can I ask a little minor reality in my life?
Sure, Clara. I'm sorry, I'm
okay.
dominating
My
this conversation.
My hand won't go down. It hurts. This one's fine. I'm icing it right now. Any other thoughts on what to do?
You can say thank you. Thank you to the.
Thank you to my paralyzed hand. Okay.
Yeah,
Are you talking about the thumb or like a?
No, the middle three fingers. These three. The thumb and
I
the.
have a solution.
Tell me.
There are two things, and I have it emailed and I've cut and pasted it to send out to people.
Okay.
I did it saved myself. So first of all, you got to stop carrying bags like, you know, hanging them from your freaking hands, like they're elastics. They're not. That's number one. So you hold your bag like this. That's number two. It's not just the joints that are responsible for healing. It's like this. If you saw the movie Seabiscuit,
No.
if you did, the horse, he was the jockey who had his own injury was telling the horse, you got to go from the whole arm down to here.
So why is it the thumb and the little finger are not affected?
They are affected. Oh, I don't know. I'm merely passing on this information. So I have it ready to go with exercises. I have it with little videos.
I got it.
And anyone who wants it, text me.
Yes, please, Ellen. Send it to me.
I'll put it in the, you know, just say what you want and I'll send it. It's a trigger finger. And I had it. You know that the medical solution for that is a steroid shot, which kills.
Oh.
And you know, so my chiropractor is the one who told me to stop carrying the bags and to do it like that. But I found this stuff online and it worked and I lose it. Sometimes, you know, you're sleeping on your face, on your hand, you know, that sort of puts more strains on it. That's all.
I carry buckets of water. I don't know if that affects.
What? Say what?
I save water and carry buckets of it to my garden.
Okay, so yeah, you got to pay attention to that. So I'm going to put my email here and my text. If I don't respond to email, it means it got lost in the sea. And if you send me the text, send me your email and I'll send it to you and put your name down.
I want to add to that. My mom had trigger finger and I was looking up cures, and for 2 months I put oregano oil on her finger and I used a splint that had foam, and it was like a tight U-shaped piece of aluminum. And after 2 months, she could use her fingers again and never had a problem. And that was like about 12 years ago.
I don't understand the splint, but okay.
The splint is to hold the finger in its, what would you say, open, to hold it open. Because with trigger finger, it usually bends at night.
I can't bend it at all. No.
Okay. So the splint helps to hold it so it doesn't bend, because sometimes people wake up with trigger finger and their finger is bent and they can't open it up. So you probably just have the very beginning stages of it.
Okay.
So email me, text me both. I have these 2 messages with videos and information.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Pleasure.
Bob Carr. Are you with us?
Hello, Bob.
Hello, Tori.
Good to see you.
I don't see.
Now I'm unmuted.
There
Hi,
you go.
Ganat. Hi, Norio. Hi, everybody. Ganat, I'm very glad to see you, that you appear healthy and sound. Many prayers going your way, all of Israel, but the whole area.
Yeah. Bob, what do you think about personal will, free will? Do we have it? Or what is fate?
Well, yeah, well, to some degree, I say to my arm, raise it, and it seems to go up. But when I say I want to win the lottery, it doesn't seem to be happening. So within certain dimensions. Has that been the topic? I got here a little late. Well, I know Jane couldn't make it. I've lots of prayers going her way too, of course. But
you have enough prayers?
Yep, unlimited supply. So what was the original? What have you been talking about? What has been the?
Well, we've gotten as far as this present moment, in which I want to say, in the synagogue, we just spent 3 days for the Jewish New Year. And one of the things that the rabbi mentioned is that when we're thinking about free will versus fate, in Hebrew, the words free will are the same, translated free will. The word for fate, however, is not what we think of as like, oh, it's fated and there's nothing I can do about it. It's Sophia, which means to see. So it's like divination, or it's like prophecy, or it's like prophets that they came and they said this and this and this, if not that, this kind of thing. So it's interesting. It's not a question of it's all fated and nothing we can do about it versus free will. And so I just am thinking about that idea, and that's as far as I got with my thinking.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That is so beautiful. That's perfect.
You know,
exactly true.
Hebrew language is so deep because there are different words for the same thing, and they have so much interpretation and wisdom to
it's
it.
The opposite, Audrey. It's very deep because it's not very wide. So we don't have many words. So the same word can be many meanings.
Yeah, that I didn't express it right. Right. Thank you for that correction. But like, for example, I had heard the word happy. In English, happy is like happenstance. It just happens. But in Hebrew, it's simcha. Now, you may be able to correct me. I have the recollection, but maybe not the proper explanation. But in Hebrew, there's the meaning has to do with you control your happiness. It's your thought. Am I right, Clara? I see.
Aaron?
I was talking to Ellen. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Simcha is joy.
Aaron, write something in the chat. He says our Israeli, he doesn't have a camera or a mic or something. And I don't know about Simcha. I don't know about that one.
Simcha is joy, and joy is not supposed to be like happy-go-lucky. It's supposed to be something deep inside.
Exactly, but it's not something that happens to you. In other words, you're not happy. You make your happiness, and it's not like it just happens to you.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions because we have holidays where you're supposed to be besimcha, and they say, how could you be besimcha? How could you force it? It's a good question. It's a good question.
Even if someone is, God forbid, killed or dies, I mean, dies, that's okay, because everyone does. And then we have some days where we sit in mourning. And if one of those days turns out to be Shabbat, turns out to be Saturday, all of a sudden we're not mourning anymore. We're like joyful in the Sabbath, and then it finishes and we go back to the mourning. I mean, it's, whoa. How to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of our game.
So here the interesting thing is that George, in his written works, really got into the depth, really got into the nitty gritty about the Western outlook on the nature of existence, the nature of the universe, etc. And it was hard work for any reader to get into, and very few of us teach that even until today. It's too difficult. If you're not actually instructed the way that Norio was. You see, as a youngster, he was instructed by George directly. It's very tough to not only to grab hold of the outlook, the perspective, but then to teach it. My goodness. And Norio has done both. He absorbed it, and now he's teaching it as well. It's just fabulous. And Norio's seen, in the remarks that I publish online. I say, you to all of the macro community, you've got in the Cushy children, you've got the exemplars of George's philosophy, able to do all of that. It's just wonderful.
Thank you, Mike.
Could we have some of the people who have black screens? If any of you would like to expose yourself and join us. Hold on, let's see who you are. I'm going to call you 1 second. Oh, look. Zoom user, iPhone, Dory's phone, Ginny, Aaron, Alice, another, Aaron, you're on twice. Oh, different. Rebecca, Grace, and Len. Anybody of you? Sylvia, I'm sure you have something to add.
More salt.
Utah and Brian, we haven't heard from you. Anything, Christina? Revam.
Well, I joined late, so I'm not sure what the topic of discussion is. I'm trying to figure that out.
So, in my humble understanding, we have no topic.
Right.
Okay.
We're just chatting.
So,
anything in mind, Brian? Anything?
Me, obviously, this is beyond complex. It's a lifelong pursuit. And Norio, you say it took you 50 years of having what you called your grandfather to even understand it. But when you call it an illusion, when I think of that word, I think of something that's not real. We're not really here.
Yeah, I actually, when I first started speaking about this, my first talk was March 1st, 2005. After I say I got the cosmic joke, is what I call it. And I use the word illusion, that it's not real, as you expressed, Audrey. And I shifted it because I didn't want to dismiss or negate our reality, which I did try to express that 95 to 100% of what we think is real is not. It's an illusion. But I find that doesn't, it's way too, until it's seen what that means directly for oneself, it doesn't register. So I acknowledge this is a reality. And the trick is to recognize that how this reality is created, not to negate the reality. And in seeing how this reality is created, we then we can now then empower each other to recreate any kind of reality we want. So this reality is not created by the individual, it's created in relationship with each other. That's how all reality is created. And so that's, and really ultimately our purpose is to support each other's flowering in any reality that is created. And because we're ignorant as to what we truly are, we, instead of supporting each other in our flowering, we are doing the opposite, unfortunately. And that effort organized becomes the atrocities that we are all witnessing firsthand for many of us. So just to give you real quickly an analogy of how this reality is created. When we're born, this reality doesn't exist for the infant when it's first born, this biological form. So then when we begin to speak, when we start speaking, we're given a camera, a video camera, whatever, and we're told, this is who you are. You are this video camera. Then you bring the video camera up to the seeing, what is actually seen, not you. And so then we then go through life looking through this whatever is in view of the camera. And then as we go through life, we're adding filters which are shaping the reality. We're now seeing the world through different, Jewish, Catholic, Muslim, whatever filters are being placed on this camera. And so we go through the rest of our life identifying with this camera as who we are. And so like any camera, so the Norio, the Ginat, Bob, Mike, that is just the camera. That name is the camera, is being applied to the camera. And
the reality, not in the camera, the reality is in the piece. So if there is peace, the camera, or it is reflected in a pool, for example, you cannot see your face, you cannot see reality if the surface of the pool is not calm, not still. So your reflection in the soul to reflect that peace. And then when that peace is expressed, it comes as kindness, which begins with the one next to you, with your immediate family, your nation, and it extends to your neighbors. Anyway, that's my...
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, and the storm, the ripples or whatever, is another filter that's placed on the camera. And so it's not to invalidate what is being seen through the camera. All what is being seen is valid. It's to recognize that the camera is not what is doing the seeing. In other words, you, Kinat, and Norio, and we actually are not the ones that is seen. When death occurs, that scene does not end. That scene was there before this form was born. And that's time is one of the filters that is placed on the over the lens. There is time itself is a creation. And actually I saw that the first time I saw that when I was 18. But I didn't fully grasp the implication of that until I was 50. So anyway, so that's I wanted to try to kind of give a simple analogy of what is we're looking at. So it's the camera that is claiming to be the seer that is the mischief maker.
My interpretation of it is that we were, before our birth, we chose to come here to Earth, and we were all the people here were meant to be here at this time for this experience. And that's the way I see it, and I don't try to analyze it too much more than that.
Yeah, I mean that's a good way of looking at it. And the joke is the camera doesn't have any choice. It doesn't have any free will. The camera did not choose. But that doesn't mean there wasn't a choice made. But the camera is not the one that chose.
Right, because it sounds like it was pre-programmed.
Our reality is pre-programmed. And so the camera, which is part of this pre-programming, has no free choice, did not choose and has no free will. But that doesn't negate free will or choice. But you and I are not the ones that chose. You and I are just temporary images in this game of birth and death, time.
But you can make the changes. You get the pre-programming and you don't have the choice because you're kind of told. But then as you grow, you can make the change, right?
Actually, no change has to be made. It just see what is really seen. It's not you. It's not the camera. The scene, there's no beginning and end to it. And this birth and death, when we die, we don't go anywhere because there's nowhere to go. Because time is part of this game. Without time, that we couldn't create this reality. Or this reality couldn't be created, I should say. It's more accurate.
The filter is a wisdom by which you can adjust the lens.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what we do throughout our life as we mature. Hopefully, we mature emotionally and all. We see more and more. So it appears that we learn, but the camera is not what is learning.
What is learning? It's not
when the camera dies, like the Norio camera will die eventually, the seeing what is seen through the camera never ends. And that's true. That's what is seen through all of you.
Norio, do you look forward to the next level of existence? Do you look forward to post-death?
I'm already there. I'm already, because we don't go anywhere when we die. Yeah, that becomes obvious when it's recognized what our true nature is, what is really seen. So
that's
there's
good because
nothing to look forward to.
I've been asking myself if everyone is so looking forward to the world to come, and yet we hang on to this life and we want to live and we want to continue. And I thought, well, that's paradoxical, but the way you're explaining it, it's all the same.
Yeah, it's, and the like someone mentioned earlier about peace, like we don't recognize we can't find peace in this reality. There's no such thing as peace, because real peace is the absence of the separation, of identifying with the separation. And that doesn't exist in this reality. So it doesn't mean that we can't become peaceful. Of course, that is but it's not a future. It's not a goal. It's a seeing what already is. That this is just a lens through which we're seeing this reality.
Can I interject here?
Yes, Mike. Yeah.
For macro students, it's probably help if take exactly what it is that you said, that peace is not a part of this reality, but you, by simply enunciating it, you are positing a yin to the yang actuality of this reality. And so the two of them, you're carrying, or you're posing next to each other, one yin, one yang.
Yeah, I have a funny story. When my dad wrote, I was always a thorn in his side. I would always question him. Why do you do this? What's this? I don't get it. I would question. Anyway, so I read his book, One Peaceful World, after it was published, and we're sitting down at Dunkin' Donuts on Route 9.
Donuts.
Well, it's actually Mr. Donuts. It was called Mr. Donuts at the time. Anyway, we were sitting there, and he asked me, about the book. What did I think? And I wasn't sure exactly what to. One, I wasn't sure exactly how to describe what I was feeling. But I told him, well, I don't know. I don't think this has to do with peace, or it'll lead. What you wrote will lead to peace. And he asked me, well, what do you think will lead to peace? If I don't agree with what he wrote, then what is it that will lead to? Oh, okay, you have the book, you're not. Anyways, and so I stopped and looked at that question, and I was silent for a few seconds, a number of seconds. And then I told him, and then then it came to me. I said to him, I don't know. And he took that as like, well, he has the answer. I don't know. I'm interpreting how he interpreted my answer. That he has the answer and I don't have the answer. But I try to explain to him that it's impossible to know what peace is, because peace is in the relating with each other. And until I meet you and understand without prejudice, without any judgment, who and what you are, I can't know who and what you are, and therefore I can't know peace. I can't know what peace is, because it's in how we relate with each other. And it's to be in true relationship with each other in the way in which we're relating, which is where the peace exists, not in a method, not in some kind of method to get to peace. Is truly seeing each other for who we are. So I realized I could not know what peace is because I have to. It's in relating with each other that we understand peace. So that's that was another glimpse that I got from what Giorgio Sa was teaching.
Another interpretation of the word peace.
Yeah, I saw that peace is not a goal. It's
so
not.
The word in Hebrew for peace is shalom, which comes from the root for whole or complete. Or,
yes. Yeah. That's beautiful. That's really beautiful because that is. Peace is in recognizing the other person in front of me is me. We're whole and complete. In relationship, we complete each other. So anyway, that's So really, I feel that this is really the core of what Giorgio Sa was speaking of. And when I was 10 years old, when Giorgio Sa was visiting us. There was a decision made. There was a lot of publicity around cancer at that time. And so my dad and Giorgio Sa said, hey, as a way of spreading macrobiotics, let's use cancer. Say we can cure cancer. And so the focus after that turned into a way of dealing with cancer through the food. And so it was in 65 that the shift happened more from what we're looking at right now together to a diet based 1965. Yeah. So that's where the shift happened with the focus on food. Not that food wasn't important prior to that, of course it was, but the focus on the food happened then. That's when the macrobiotic diet, my dad started defining macrobiotic diet.
Right. So maybe we want to consider the idea of health and recovery and what it takes.
Yeah. The word health actually means whole. Shalom.
Anyone else? Let's see if we can widen the conversation. What's your feelings? But how does one heal? Is food it? Is it important at all? Is it necessary?
Let's ask Bob. What's the important ingredient or ingredients in healing?
Well, I like the word whole. Health, whole, and holy all come from the same root. And so that means that there's a spiritual dimension as well as but when we go far enough with spirit, if we go far enough out there, you get to emptiness and nothing. And out of this nothing is where our healing's coming. This is like Norio was talking about the illusion. To me, that we live in nothing, and then here we are. We have, we seem to have molecules that make up our tissues and cells, but mostly they're space, they're nothing. And this is the illusion that we're living in. But how we address this illusion determines whether we heal ourselves or not. It's not like somebody else is going to come in and heal you. It may appear that way, but it's addressing healing is addressing the space between everything or nothingness, or Norio uses the word illusion. But I use the word spirit or emptiness or vacuum. And it's really important. And as Norio said, not many people are getting it, that we're a whole bunch of nothing. But that gives us freedom. And you talk about free will. Well, we have it. But we have to exercise it. We have to acknowledge it. If we do, we get better. If we don't, we move on.
Yeah, right on, Bob. Yeah, truly, our core being is the eternal, and that is our core being. No beginning, no end. And the beauty is that it can be recognized. The camera will never recognize it because the camera is something that was inherited when we were children. But it's possible to recognize the seeing, what is truly seen, how this reality, illusion or reality is created, and we can really support each other's flowering in this reality or illusion. Yeah.
Who else? Come on, I'm going to start calling you by name. Brian.
Okay, I do have a question. I was on a Zoom call not long ago with someone who had been to several classes at the Kushi Institute. And to backtrack just a second, my mother was one of those people, like many in her generation, that at one time or other was on a weight loss diet. So this person on the Zoom call that I was with had this understanding that the macrobiotic diet was a short-term thing that you did as a remedy before you then stopped and went back to a quote-unquote healthy diet. And I was just confounded by this, that after having been to the Kushi Institute, that she somehow did not understand that this was a change in a way of life, in a different way of seeing, a different way of eating. And I was just curious if anybody else had run into that, because that was a scenario I have never thought of before, that someone would associate the word diet with something you did only short term.
Interesting. Diet comes from the word dieta Latin, and it meant way of life. And so the way you eat was a reflection of way of life. So it's really a pretty big term which goes beyond food. But we use it in a kind of a limited way of meaning the food that you eat, not the way you think about the food you eat or the way you live it.
Yeah.
I can understand, Brian. I can contemplate and think that someone here, they have an illness or they have a situation that they don't like, or something's going on in their lives which is not wanted. So they find this panacea. They hear about the Kushi Institute. They learn about this diet. They figure out, okay, all I have to do is just chew whatever, and they really are not interested in anything beyond that. They don't want philosophy, and they're not at Norio's understanding, and all they want is to get rid of this problem. So they understand, they hear, okay, I can do this for 10 days. My blood quality changes. I'm a new person, back to what I know. So I can imagine a person interpreting it that way. It's better than nothing. It's something. It could be a foot in the door. It could be, I don't know, interesting.
Yeah, I first became aware of macrobiotics in, I believe it was 1986, through an issue of Vegetarian Times magazine. They
Huh.
did an issue that focused on some interviews with Michio and some menus, etc. So I've been aware of macrobiotics for that long, and this was the first time I ever thought that someone would hear the word diet and have a different understanding of it than what I did. So it was an eye-opening experience.
Well, Brian, it's exactly the question that I wanted to get to, and here you've presented it for me. What is macrobiotics?
Yeah, that's it.
Is there
Yeah.
anything that it's not?
That lost in translation. Giorgio Sawa, he spoke Japanese, and he was also, his second language was French. He was fluent in French. So English was a language he did not. He was actually, I should say, he was fluent in English as well, but macrobiotics, macrobiotic in French means something different than it would in English. And so that's so macrobiotics is, Giorgio Sao, I think, meant it is more of an adjective, not a noun, but it became a noun, became a proper noun actually. And that's where, like Yuginat and other people have pointed out, the differences in the translation. What is the word mean really? So yeah. So Bob, I think that, look, in this question, I think it's very, very good, and something that I had conversations with Bill Tufte about as well many years ago, and still valid today.
What did macrobiotics mean in French?
Well, it means big life,
Oh.
large life, or big life, or and it's from Latin. Large life is what it means. It's not a noun, proper noun.
Rebecca.
I think Varya had her hand up.
Hi, everybody. I'm sort of new to this group, though I've checked in a few times, and I'm sort of new to macrobiotic thinking, but not to its way of life, since I've started in Berkeley in 1960s, became a vegetarian. But I just want to tell you a small story, a health story, one of those health stories. My husband of my whole life was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer in July 2019. And I immediately contacted my friends who were into healthier diets than mine. And I picked up a cookbook and I put him on he and me on a very strict standard classic macrobiotic diet. And we had wonderful food because I happened to pick up a gourmet cookbook for the first cookbook. And he lived 3 years and 3 months in excellent health, enjoying his life, under chemotherapy the whole time, but way, way outliving any kind of prognosis for somebody with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, never being in very much pain. And people have asked me about this and what the impact I thought the diet was on this, his experience. And my reply usually is, it did not cure cancer, but what it did was provide such a much stronger immune system so that he was able to withstand the chemotherapy, which is, is an art more than a science. They really don't know what they're doing with chemotherapy. It allowed his body to withstand the onslaught of the chemo, which did kill a lot of the cancer cells. for 3 years, for over 3 years. He didn't really get, I would say he didn't really get terminally ill until the last month of his life. And then he was at home the whole time and died a very peaceful life. And he was 85 years old at the time. And that's what I tell people. My diet has, moving from cooking from 2 people to cooking for 1 people. I have to applaud anybody who spends a lot of time cooking as a single person, because it's very difficult. For 2 people, it was easy. For 1 person, it's not hard. And recently, just to continue that story, recently I was in Europe on a tour, a very psychologically difficult tour. And for the first time, my body went completely haywire. I ended up in 3 emergency room in Lithuania, emergency room in Poland, and 2 emergency rooms in France, because my blood pressure was in the very, very dangerous level. And I came home, and now my blood level is fine. Blood pressure is fine. I'm talking to a doctor. And that also made me realize that so much of who we are is our thinking process and our way of dealing with emotions. And, food is one thing that can help, but it's really the very holistic concept of where we are in the world and who we are and how we're relating. So I just wanted to pass that story on to you. And by the way, my husband was sick during the COVID, and there's actually a really good time to be really sick, because we had nowhere to go and nothing to do but go inward, and to we don't have a TV, and view yourself in the world. It actually had some positive effects, I think, for us. Thank you for listening to me.
Varya, that's a terrific story. And the description, nowhere to go, nothing to do, is excellent. You just deal with who you are at the time. It's just a kick. That's wonderful. Thanks so much.
Who else has recovered? Who else can say what it takes? Ellen. Oh, maybe she was waving goodbye. Anybody else? Anyone have healing stories? Yeah.
Rivam.
Yeah.
Hi, all. It's not really recovery. And I'm just going to segue into saying goodbye to all. But, from what I recently read and people I've observed, just lost an aunt in May who lived to 108. She did not do macrobiotics, and I don't know what she did. And a long time ago, she had, years ago, stomach cancer. And I made miso soup and taught her, and she thought that was how she survived. And another cousin, she since lost her, let her rest in peace, and she wanted me to teach her how to make miso soup because she thought that was it. Well, I didn't want to get involved because it was really serious. But anyways, what I think is a lot, there were terminal illnesses. I lost a sister-in-law a year ago, and it's multiple myeloma, and there is no cure. She managed 8 years instead of 2. And, now I hear all these stories. And I think it's having loved ones around and stress. Let's face it, it's so hard to deal with, but I think stress, you have to try to cope with it and overcome it. And of course, good food and exercise. I think exercise is important. Other than that, I have no really ticket to it. And I think the one above has a lot of control over us. But I just want to thank you, Ganat, for all you do, and good health to you, and sending prayers for hope and healing to all of you in Israel. And here in New Hampshire, we're all remembering tonight. There is a big memorial for all for October 7th. We're all going to have services in different congregations. And I just want to wish all of you who observe and all of you who don't, I wish you all happy, healthy, a healing, and to all a peaceful, peaceful new year. And my heart goes out to all of you in Israel and all of you in North Carolina, etc. Be well. Take care.
Thank you so much. Good. And whose picture just kind of jumped in there? Wait, I'm going to find you. Hold on.
Jenny.
Jenny.
Hello. Hello. My husband too was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and I have been doing the macrobiotic way since 1990. And even though I ate kind of funny, according to my family, and my azuki beans used to bounce on the floor when I was first learning how to cook them, you know, they didn't actually express an interest in doing my kind of food. Well, that's okay. So my husband was the type that enjoyed everything, loved everything, had a million hobbies, and then he got sick. And I have a feeling he was sick for a very long time. So of course he ran to doctors. And once he started getting the prognoses, which were terrible, one wanted to take his spleen out, and eventually they settled on pancreatic cancer, although I think it was more than that. He decided to do the chemotherapy, and that's when I came into play. He finally decided, okay, cook for me. I'll eat what you cook. And I'm trying to think what type of, it was an oncologist that said he wanted to take his spleen out. And I told him that, well, we're going to leave him. We're going to do it on our own. And he said, well, you really need to have that spleen taken out. I said, well, how would you feel if somebody cut off your left hand or your right hand? I said, you really have to treat the body as a whole. Well, of course, he thought I was crazy. And he said that if I let him take my blood test, he would find out what I've got wrong with me. So yeah, it was so arrogant. So we found a really nice, another oncologist, and he finally decided Frank had to go on to some kind of chemotherapy. And I was doing the cooking, and the doctor said, well, I don't know about that kind of food. You know, he's not getting enough nutrients. So you need to write down what you're feeding him and what the diet consists of. And of course, in the doctor's office, there was plenty of candy for the patients that were going through the infusions. So I did. And he said, wow, if you would cook for me, I'd eat this. So as it turned out, that doctor died of bone cancer while my husband was going through the chemotherapy. And Frank lived about, 18 months after he started chemotherapy. His life didn't change. He did all the things he loved to do. He had no pain. All the pain he had before disappeared. And when he finally passed away, it was the last week that we had hospice care. And it was peaceful at home. That was it. So, but I agree, it's so much more than the food. However, it's interesting that people who are sick get healed by the food, and then they think it's the diet. So nothing else changes.
Maybe
but it's an introduction.
If we believe that this diet is going to heal me, or
Yes.
this psalm, or wearing these clothes, or
yes,
going to Lourdes, or whatever it is, that's if I really believe it, then there's a lot to it.
Well, and I want to mention something else. I mean, I'm not free. I don't have wonderful health, but I'm okay. You know, I'm 80 and I'm still on my own. And yesterday I took apart the garage and day before I cleaned out the weeds in my daylilies, so I'm doing okay. But I wanted to mention something really weird. I don't know if anybody's had this experience. You know, when we see each other and we just, if we're connected to ourselves, it seems like I'm talking from me, and it seems like I'm looking at you just outwardly. It's part of me. But in reality, sometimes I get the feeling that that's not true at all, that something is using me to talk, or something is using me to see.
Yes.
Well, you've got a part in this world, that means. Whoever's using you, you know, you're part of something bigger.
Yeah, you're not the one that's seeing. That's the cosmic joke.
Is that
it? Yeah.
Well,
and
it's
Jojo
almost
Sawa.
like you said, you know, that we're the camera, you know, it's not really the camera that's seeing, and I almost feel like it's us too.
Yeah, yeah, Jojo Sawa. We don't understand what because we're ignorant of our true fundamental nature. We're ignorant of what disease actually is. And Jojo Sawa even said that there's only one disease. And I call it phantom selfing, but he called it arrogance. And that all disease is just a symptom of arrogance. And so, according to Jojo Sawa, and at 50 years old, I finally understood what he meant. And I refer to it as phantom selfing. And that is, and what I mean by that is, using the camera analogy, is identifying with the camera as who we are. Is what and that's the source of all disease. So, and Ginat asked about recovery stories from the perspective of our reality. Yeah, I'm someone that is supposedly recovered from cancer. So, and in this reality, of course, you know, according to the Duke University, the Duke Hospital Cancer Research Center, I've been free of cancer for 11 months now. So, but to me, it's there was no cancer. I mean, to me, I don't see it as something negative, cancer. Something. It's I see it as life, part of life, and from the perspective of stepping a bigger, wider step back perspective. You know, when this tumor started showing up, and finally I had it diagnosed in August 2021, July 2021 actually, and it's when they said it was Merkel cell carcinoma, whatever, cancer. It was like, okay, no big deal. I knew that that's not true. Number one, I already knew that the label is not what it is. You know, in the same way the word tree is not the tree. I know that Merkel cell carcinoma or cancer is not what it really is. I just, you know, the key thing is that I realized I knew nothing. The camera knows nothing. So I just, you know, and George Sawa talked about that, not in those words, but he would talk about that. And so I just started from ground zero, totally ignorant, totally with a clear recognition that I knew nothing. And So, and saw this as another adventure. So that's the way. So I was open to anything. I tried their, listened to them and tried some of their methods, and I saw that they knew nothing that they were also knew nothing, although they claimed to know something. I knew that in actuality they knew nothing, which was I didn't fault them for that ignorance because I was in the same boat. I knew nothing. So, but anyway, the adventure continues. That's all I can say.
Well, Norio, do
Uh,
you still what do you plan to do since Dr. Yu passed away? And can you tell us what happened to him exactly?
well, it was sudden. What my brother Fia suggested I go see Dr. Yu, and
Right.
which I did, and Dr. Yu suggested that I go on a keto diet,
Right.
and so since then I gave him my word that I would do that for 2 years. So I'm still on that. That was so January 2025, January 19th will be the 2-year anniversary. So I'm going to follow that till then, and then reassess. I'm not saying I'm gonna drop it. I'm just saying I know that I'm going to do that till January 19th. So with regard to what happened with Dr. Yu, and here again, there's no beginning and no end. So to me, living in this game, this reality, it's a temporal reality. Our core nature is eternal, but without the temporal, we couldn't play. So there is really no birth and death. And so the way I see it is that I'm getting sorry, I'm getting off track. But to answer your question regarding Dr. Yu, he was diagnosed in August with pancreatic cancer, and his decision was to not do anything, and he passed away, I think, in a week after the diagnosis. And so that is the explanation, the cause and effect explanation of our game, of our reality. Excuse me. I know that some people don't like the word. I understand the word game sounds dismissive, and that's not my intent. I'm not meaning to dismiss the atrocities or make light of the atrocities that are experienced.
Norio, just parenthetically, George Osawa used the word play. That's where that's where we get that notion from. In case anyone wants to know.
Yeah, and my dad used that word often too. So it's not that. So cause and effect implies time, and time is part of this game, part of this reality. So when we zoom out beyond the camera perspective, beyond this perspective of the physical, then we see that ultimately there is no cause and effect.
So what you're saying is, it sounds like Dr. Yu was no longer eating macrobiotically?
Well, here again, Dr. Yu's explanation to me is that the philosophy or the way that macrobiotics was taught was just one component of our health and not the whole. And that's something that I would often, like I said, I was a thorn in my dad's side. I would have those discussions with him about that. and that's, you know, that was, I felt that from the consultations. I would sit in on his consultations. You know, I sat in many of his consultations, and I could sense that which people, which families, which people would follow, and which would not follow the advice. And what I saw was that it was easy to dismiss people who died from, quote, cancer as not having followed the advice. And I felt that the way that I saw it is was not a failure on the individual. It's a failure on, is as much a failure of the teacher. And, you know, I'm not saying that my dad was a failure, but it's, ultimately there is no teacher, there's no student. There's only supporting each other's flowering, which is, and to support each other's flowering, one of the things is to, that can, I'm not saying it does, but can interfere with the flowering, is the distinction between teacher, student. Ultimately, to the flowering, one flower does not think it's better than the other flower, or knows more than another flower. So, so in that recognition, I felt like I could sense which people would follow and which weren't, and I could sense that the disease was in the dynamics of the family. It wasn't not just, wasn't an individual, not just the person who was diagnosed with the disease, and therefore, like when my sister got sick, I really urged her not to come home. I urged her to go to Hawaii and live with some other close friends of ours. But she wanted to come home, and of course, you know, it's up to her. So, in other words, I felt like the cancer was an expression of her life, her upbringing as well, and to come home would be returning to that same dynamics. So, anyway, so and so I would be the thorn in my dad's side and pointing to more than the food. And clearly, I'm not dismissing the value and importance of understanding food, but there's more to it than just that. The food is definitely supportive. The quality of our food and eating human foods is definitely supportive of each other and our flowering. So it's, yeah.
Thank you, Noria. So I look fuzzy. I'm about ready to wrap this up. Is there any one with any burning question or comment? Anything that we want to be sure we mention?
I was just wondering, I came on late to how Jane is doing with the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. I was just wondering how Jane was doing because she wasn't speaking.
So it's good. We started our whole program with a discussion about how Jane is doing, and we can finish, come full circle. I don't have any up to the minute updates. I sent the letter that she wrote to me. I know nothing. iPhone, do you want to speak, Gretchen? You can unmute.
I was at Leno's memorial in April in Asheville, and came home, and it was a heck of a drive both ways, even when the weather was not a factor. So I was concerned about Jane, and then all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, I think she's the featured speaker this Zoom this weekend. But anyway, I did text her to see if anything would happen. I sent her a message on Facebook, which she's on, although she's on it underneath Leno's page, which is a little strange. But anyway, she sent back the message that she was fine, that her basement was flooded, but that she was living with friends. And I haven't really heard anything since, other than the message that was on Facebook that they were okay. So, the only thing else is you can look, there are probably thousands of videos about the whole French Broad River and Asheville and that whole area of North Carolina, which was devastatingly impacted. And I'm not even sure how they're going to be able to handle it. And people are saying, well, why didn't the government send people in right away? Well, you have an area that has nothing for the people that are there. So you can't send 1,000 people there without having a plan. You have to know what you're going to do with them, how you're going to feed them, how you're going to take care of the ones you're sending in to help. But anyway, it's just a matter of to be continued. So, I would suggest you follow Leno on Facebook, and then you'll find out about Jane. And I did just want to, in addition to that, before we were redirected on the thing about Jane, I was having a fantasy here as I sat here thinking about macrobiotics in general, and I want to add a little levity to the commentary by saying this is much of the conversation, as has been the case in the last 21 years of my experience with macrobiotics, is way above my pay grade, and I'm glad that Norio had a sort of ethereal background behind his picture body, because it seemed like a lot of what he said for me was out in space. I don't necessarily grab everything, the philosophical business of macrobiotics, but I've been studying it. Gosh knows I've had tons of experiences with it, but I continue to follow it because I feel like there are a lot of incredibly intelligent people involved with this movement that I know I can learn something from if I keep in touch with them. And I went to the macrobiotic camp in California for 12 years, and I wish we could sort of do a partial day of camp. A fantasy is a partial day of camp on a Zoom where maybe Bob Carr would lead us in some Doin, and Mike could do us some meditation and chanting, and then somebody could do a lecture. Anyway, that's just a little fantasy. And thank you very much, Ganat, and everybody for doing these. But follow Facebook, Leno Stanchich, for information on Jane and other people. Michael Rossoff is also in that area, and Marcia Reisman. There are a lot of people in there. So, hey, hello, Bob. Hi, Bob. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, hi, Gretchen.
Anyway, that's all I have to say. But I thank you for continuing to keep everybody stimulated macrobiotically. Our camera or
Ganat. Ganat.
Go ahead, speak, Carol.
Oh, okay. So does anybody know how we could get money to Jane? Is she getting mail?
I don't think anybody's getting anything there. But I think Jane I think she's probably okay. There's a heck of a big macrobiotic community in Asheville. And she and Lena were certainly part of it. And I have to believe that they're probably taking care of each other through this. And they lived on they lived a little bit higher in a little high area, but her basement was flooded. So I get that, but yeah, you just have to follow it and see how it progresses as they have power and Wi-Fi restored. She'll communicate to us, I'm sure.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, our power came back on Thursday night.
Norio, do you live in Nashville?
In Asheville, yeah.
Did James
but I don't know but I actually couldn't get home because all the roads were blocked. So I'm in my truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I live west of Asheville in Bryson City, so about an hour and 20 minutes west of Asheville. And what we're hearing is that the water systems are very damaged. And so even if people have access to electricity and internet, it's unknown when water will be returned for quite some time.
Yeah. Our water was not affected, and we have a good filtration system as well, even if it was. Lord. And we have gas stove and a gas water heater. So
praise the Lord.
So the only thing that was missing was the electricity, which came on Thursday night. And I mean, there's still a big hole in our roof, and one of the cars is not running because it's been hit by a tree, but we have two other cars between my car and my son's car. So we're doing well. The Asheville home and the neighbors, everybody just pulled together and cleared the road. I mean, it's just impassable. Our driveway was totally blocked by this huge tree, and someone came by with a chainsaw, and my son went out, and the two of them cleaned up the driveway. Yeah.
Bless you.
Everybody, I'm going to say sayonara, good night in my case, goodbye. It's been a couple hours. I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so appreciative. And let's have a good time.
Yeah, thank you, Ginat.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Jean.
Bye.